You gotta have knowledge for life. You gotta have knowledge for life. You gotta have knowledge for life. You gotta have
Greetings to everyone. I want to first greet you all in the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum in the Arabic language, of Shalom in the Hebrew language, for my Kemetic and nationalist brothers and sisters, Hotep, and for my Christian brothers and sisters, praise the Lord.
Amen.
In the name of God, I would like to greet you all and welcome you to the first Knowledge Cypher conference series, and to let you all know basically what we're striving to do here with this conference series is we're striving to put together a knowledge database where we call in professionals to speak on issues like this, like mental health, entrepreneurship, male-female relationships, just whatever issue that the black community is facing. We want to call professionals who will come together and address those issues, and then we want to put that together on a website where the community can go. And for instance, if we want to find out where we can go to get help, if we have some mental health issues, we can have a central location on the web where we can find that information. One of the things that we know is that if you have a problem or an issue, that you and I, we can't face or overcome that object or that issue unless we understand it. And so mental health is definitely where we want to start, because we can't go forward until we understand the dynamics of mental health. Because thought precedes action, right? And many of us don't even know why we act the way we do. And so we want to definitely address the subject of mental health. Knowledge Cypher is a part of Knowledge for Life, which is a 501c3 organization. So we are also asking the community to become a member of Knowledge for Life and to help us through donations, so that we can make these conferences very impactful. These conferences will be recorded, as you can see, and they'll be uploaded to our social media sites and also to Dayton Access Television. One of the things that we're also striving to do with these conferences is to use some of the skills and talents of our young people who are in the colleges and universities, and intern them and allow them to work the cameras. We want to do this. We want to stream these conferences live at some point. We can have those who are in that field to help us to do that. We want to make the website very navigational, so it won't be very difficult to navigate through it. So we need those young people to do that as well. And we're also calling on those who are in our community who have the wherewithal to help to sponsor these conferences, and we're putting this out here now on the screen to give us a call. What we want to do right now is we want to call on one of our talented brothers who is a spoken word artist, and we want to hear what he has to say on this subject, or it might be related to the subject, we'll see. but please give a warm round of applause to our brother, and to give him a proper introduction. He is a poet at Underdog Academy. He is a spoken word poet. He is a writer. He's an author from Dayton, Ohio. And he is the, at an event that I went to, the Baldwin Cafe. He put on this event, and I went there, and it was a beautiful event. But, you know, I'm pushing past half a century, right? So when I went, I saw all these young people there, and I was like, the young people in Dayton, Ohio are doing some things. And so I want to introduce our brother Leroy Devon Bean. Give him a warm round of applause.
Look, let's get into this poem and then get out your way. If that's cool, say cool.
Cool.
Black men and women are mentally swimming in the depths of darkness, yet full of hope and light. Oh, what priceless birthright you pay, the tremendous amounts of energy your cavities contain, your vascular absorbing. This means more reasonable ideas. Cup full of clear water, bounding the smooth elasticity of life. But there is a doubtful, chilling thought awakened in mind, opened slowly, that it is radical, an absolute impossibility. It makes you despise the dream. Yet, positivity must stand strong. In its modest demeanor, somehow amounting to conviction, charmingly, somewhat blankly, it shall belittle your self-doubt and say, I wonder if your creature has sense of itself. Logical, even acceptable. In defense, your negative thought will say, be kind to my humble unreality. I am just your antagonist, a simple devil's advocate. Mental health is an everyday battle.
That's right.
And in this space of being, we can afford no more stupid trades. So be silent, impatient, hide to ripen further discoveries. Walk in truth, swim in fast streams of black memory. Announce your ideal property, they cannot take the mind. Dare to have power. Cultivate your own future, do not be influenced. Paint your portraits humanized. All things civilizing, find fairness, even in your self-image. Reflect, find clarity, complete through clairvoyance. It's no ordinary sense. See the promised land you seek in yourself. It seems strange, I know. If your chakra can't calm the pain, then your container corrodes. It awakens the acidic taste of suicide, to litter life, throw it all away. But you are forgiven. Received redemption from a God so giving, yet find a way to still stay poor. Stay in dry, morbid ideal. A fake orchard type of mind state, well enough imitated, but do not touch that deadly fruit. It harms much more than external flesh. Mostly capable of damage to the spirit, intoxicates intuitive senses. It's irreparable. You must suffer some changes, some growing pains. Understand the power of our instrument. The blue electric rays sparks the abstract spectacle of this disorder. It allows awareness, acknowledgement. Resign yourself as the victim. Hanging on the center of the carpet, a shadow to others' perspectives. Do not just lay there. On the contrary, be reborn in the world's beauty. Bloom at night through holy decrypting. Find the key, twist the handle, cast the hidden paradise in the mind. Have control. Do not be discouraged. Remove directors and disorients. Those mere illusions, forms of the demon itself. You must be able to perform exorcisms. That's the cost a great life is measured by. The payment they earn is the energy towards the life they seek, and I cannot let the toxic ones influence me. I adore my peace. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's give another hand to our brother Leroy Bean. That was powerful. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Now I want to introduce some of the panel, our and our keynote speaker for sure. We have Sister Robbie Brandon, who is the founder and the executive director at Sunlight Village. We have Sister Lynn Brinson, who is with the Black Empowerment Collective, and I'll go more into their titles as we bring them up. And we have Sister Iris Marie Blanchard, who is with the Montgomery County Children's, or is no?
No, actually with Sunlight Village.
Oh, with Sunlight Village, okay. So I got old information. So what we want to do is bring up our sister, who is the executive director at Sunlight Village. And Sunlight Village, it was created to be a transitional treatment community that will provide a safe yet nurturing environment focused on mental health stability, education and hope for youth and young adults. It provides individual, group, and family therapy, care management, peer support, and resources and referral services to transitional youth ages 14 through 25. Sunlight Village offers individualized counseling and training on mental illness, as well as youth programs like mentoring programs at the Dayton chapter of Youth Move. We want to go ahead now and introduce our sister who will enlighten us on the mental health condition here in Dayton, Ohio. Please give our sister a warm round of applause, Sister Robbie Brandon.
Steve, we're going to update everybody's bio information. I want to thank you all for having me today, and thank you, Steve, for this wonderful opportunity to share our information about Sunlight Village and mental health. I'm going to pass these out. Is that okay? Everything I do is interactive. You don't want to sit here and listen to me talk for 30 minutes. That just should make me crazy. So let me update things on where we are with Sunlight Village first and foremost. Sunlight Village is a nonprofit. It's a faith-based nonprofit, and we do provide mental health counseling, therapy, and support services to youth and young adults. But we've expanded that population. We were 14 to 25, but now we see children as young as 6. And actually, Iris's oldest client is how old?
75.
75. What we found out is we started out wanting to be this transitional community where we house children or had children come and help them recover from mental illness in a residential kind of atmosphere. But that proved not work. Funding kind of went away and nobody believed in residential treatment anymore. So we had to change our focus, and we started doing just community education and started talking about, what our community needs. As providers, I'm a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for almost 30 years, 29 years. And in all that, we found that there were so many deficits in mental health. So just us, doing conferences and trainings just wasn't enough. We started doing billable services in 2013. So we take CareSource, Molina, Buckeye, but 40% of our population services are free. We don't turn anyone away based on their ability to pay. We actually have families in our community who have Anthem, who are the working poor, who can't afford the deductible, can't afford the co-pays, so we don't turn them away. And Iris, bless her heart, she sees clients late in the evening. Our hours are convenient for our community and our population. What good is it to have a program that services kids if we can't see them after they're out of school? So I applaud all the therapists that work in our community and that see our struggling families and help them support their mental health and their wellness. But that's an update on Sunlight Village. We are on the corner of 3rd and Plaza. Transitional treatment is not out of the loop for us, but our focus right now is we're so targeted on our inner city African American families that we have to stay right here in this realm for just a little while. Okay, so again, my name is Robbie Brandon, and I am a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats. I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a granddaughter, I'm a sister, I'm a community advocate, I'm a nurse, I'm a Christian servant, just to name a few. I grew up here in Dayton. I grew up in the DeSoto Baths. Graduated from Dunbar High School. Whoop, whoop.
All right.
By the time I was 24, I had 3 children. And someone told me, someone who was very close to me told me the only thing I ever completed was having those 3 kids. And they were right. I had 25 jobs, get on my nerves, I quit. Somebody said the wrong thing to me, I throw in the towel. You know, it was what it was. I don't care. You know, I'm in survival mode right now. You get on my nerves, you pluck my last nerve, I'm out the door. And so many of our families are traveling down that same road right now. Someone also told me, which was a baby daddy, that I don't want a woman on welfare. That's after I had the baby. So these things were very impactful to me. They were very hurtful to me. I could have lived in those truths, but I chose to do something about it. At 26 years old, I went to Sinclair, graduated, and got my nursing degree and became a registered nurse in 1990. This was life-changing for me. This was a game changer. But it didn't come without struggles and didn't come without challenges, especially in the condition that I was mentally and emotionally in my community. So I stand here today thinking about what qualifies me to tell you about mental health in the African American community. I think it's a combination of everything I am, everything I've been through, and the fact that I'm a survivor.
Amen.
Right.
I could stand here and tell you about all the tragedy, the trauma, the drama. I could stand here and tell you about all that. But instead, I choose to tell you about the protective factors that we have to put in place in our community in order to support our families and our children. Okay? So first, let's talk about what is mental illness versus what is mental health. So these things I passed out to you are going to talk about mental health. But I want to cover what mental illness is. Mental illness is a disease that causes mild to severe disturbances in thought and or behaviors, resulting in an inability to cope with life's ordinary demands and routines. So that means something is damaged or is entering in our brain and in our mind that's causing us not to be able to focus on just daily living. I can't focus on keeping a job. I can't focus on having friends and relationships. I can't focus on any of that because I'm dealing with stress, trauma, drama, abuse, violence, and neglect. I'm dealing with all that. And our families are dealing with that on a daily basis. So mental illness hasn't always been recognized as a disease process. It was something that you put your family in the institution, and we don't talk about Aunt Bravilla, and you don't talk about Uncle Bill. That's a hush-hush thing. We don't talk about mental illness in the Black community. Well, we have to start talking about mental illness in the Black community. Amen. We have to start talking about mental illness in our homes, in our schools, inside of us. When the brain isn't well, nothing else is well.
That's right.
If you had a broken bone, if you had blurry vision, if you had heart palpitations, if you had a rash, you go see about it, right? Okay, so the brain is the most important organ in our body. It runs everything. My bishop said the other day in a special teaching, you can cut my arms off, you can cut my legs off, you can even cut off part of my torso, and I'm gonna live, possibly live. But when you cut my head off, it's over.
Yeah.
When my mind is not functioning at its best capacity, I need to find out why. We need to stop thinking that we can close people in the closet or say, it's okay, you're gonna be all right. Come on, get busy, hunker down, do your thing, you're gonna be all right. You know how we are, we strong, we powerful. But when your brain is not functioning at its best capacity, nothing else functions that way, and I promise you that. So, what I want to talk about is not every emotional or mental health concern is a diagnosable mental illness. So we think as soon as we go to the doctor and we tell them that we're stressed or we're struggling with something in our life, I've lost my mother or my brother or my aunt, my uncle, and it's taken me 3 weeks to get over it. When I'm talking about that, we're thinking, okay, you're ready to put me on medication, you're ready to lock me up. That's not always the case. Not everything that happens to us emotionally is going to cause me to have to be diagnosed with something. That diagnosis comes with length of the illness. you know, the condition, the time frame, the causes. It takes a lot to diagnose somebody. When people pass away in our lives, that's a grieving process. Sometimes we have a hard time dealing with it. It's okay to go see a therapist. Some cultures use mental health therapy as prevention.
Right.
We as African Americans use it when it's crisis time.
Right.
And that's what we have to stop doing. We have all kind of people that come through our practice. And I'd say 90% of them are in crisis. And we're here in the Black community. And I can hear therapists talking all the time about people who come in and the women get on Prozac because they're stressed out a little bit, you know, having a tough time managing their schedule. When they come to us, it's rape, molestation, abuse, neglect, you know, child abuse, lost my husband, my children, and my grandmother all in one. I mean, this is trauma.
Right.
It's something that we can't sweep under the rug. So we got to remember that let's catch things early. Let's think about prevention. So the sheet that I gave you is going to talk about mental health. I want you to pull that sheet out. We have to stop waiting until we're in crisis. Mental health on this flyer says it includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Did you hear what I said? Your emotional, psychological, and social well-being. How many of you have heard of the social determinants of health? There's a long definition for it by the World Health Organization. It's simply, to me, the conditions in my society that cause me to be healthy or unhealthy.
That's it right there.
That's it. It's the things in my society that cause me to be healthy or unhealthy. So those are the social things that we can't ignore, that causes a drain and strain on our mind. It affects how we think, feel, act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, how we relate to others, how we make choices. Mental health is very important in every stage of life, from childhood to adolescence, through your adulthood. Even our seniors are struggling with mental health issues, and they can't be ignored. Your mental health is part of your overall well-being, and we operate out of the 8 domains of wellness. Out of those 8 domains, we have physical, financial, social, cultural, environmental, intellectual, spiritual, and mental. And the mental domain is the most important. How many did you hear about you remember when they had the stock market crash and all these wealthy people broke down and committed suicide because of a financial crisis? How many times have you seen an athlete or a star with all their talent break down when things fall apart because they're mentally not able to handle any drastic changes in their lives? Okay, so we as African American are strong, tough people. And we've taken this abuse for years and years and years and years. And a lot of people talk about slavery. Well, the families that we're dealing with right now can't even get to slavery.
Come on.
I'm just trying to get past last week.
Right.
I'm just trying to get past yesterday.
Right.
You know, so we got to think about what it is that's going into our mind, what we're putting in our bodies that makes us healthy. So on that sheet that I gave you, was there one more for me? Thank you. I'm cheating. I'm happy to give it back to you. Okay, I'm gonna give it back to you.
Go ahead, I'll share with her.
So thank you. So on this sheet, it talks about mental health. Over the course of life, if we experience mental health problems, your thinking, mood, and behavior can be affected. Many factors contribute to mental health problems, including biological factors, such as genetics. Some of our mental illnesses are genetic. Some of them are chemical imbalances of the brain. Some of our mental illnesses are triggered. They're like diabetes. They lay dormant in our body. We could have a family who struggles with bipolar. I'll tell you right now, mental illness is one thing that they cannot put their finger on and tell you exactly where it's coming from. You can pick up any research. They can say you some of it's genetic, some of it's based on injury and trauma, some of it's based on this. But they can't, there are some things that just cannot put their hand on. The brain is like a mystery to many of our researchers. So, but if it's laying dormant in your body, like diabetes, and you don't eat right, you don't exercise, you're obese, and all this kind of stuff, don't go see the doctor, your diabetes is going to flare up, right? So if you don't have a healthy mind, and you have ancestors or family members who struggle with mental health issues, and you're stressed, and you're not eating right, and you're not exercising, and you're not taking care of yourself, what's going to flare up? Depression, anxiety. You know, you wonder why some people experience depression and some people don't. Look at their lives, look at their health, look at what they're going through and how they handle that. What kind of support systems do they have around themselves? So these are some of the protective factors I want to talk about a little bit. But on here are some of the early warning signs. Not sure if you or someone you know is living with a mental health problem, experiencing one or more of the following feelings or behaviors can be an early warning sign of the problem. Eating or sleeping too much or too little. How many people have you heard, I'm getting my grind on. Like, you need to get somewhere and go to sleep.
Right.
Oh, I'm just so tired, I done slept all day long, I done slept for 2 days. You need to get up, okay? Pulling away from people and usual activities. When you see people withdraw and they don't want to interact, do their things that they like to do, there's something going on there. And I will tell you this, mental illnesses usually begin and is usually diagnosed in early teenage years. And what happens to a teenager? They're going through all this hormonal stuff, right? And they often get mistaken for what is that, puberty you go through?
Right.
You know, so they think, oh, they just acting out. We gotta pay attention to this. Not when kids can't make friends, when they can't build relationships, when they can't focus on their classwork, when they feel numb or like nothing matters, having unexplained aches and pains, feeling helpless, hopeless, smoking, drinking, using drugs, feeling usually confused, forgetful, edgy, angry, yelling, fighting with family and friends, experiencing severe mood swings, having persistent thoughts and memories you can't get out of your head. So how many times do you think about a child who has seen someone killed in our community?
Right.
How many times do you think a mother has lost their child in our community and constantly replay that in their head?
Right.
You know, think about that. Hearing voices. Now there are some mental illnesses that cause positive and negative things like voices and being unkept and disheveled. There are certain things like schizophrenia that have those, so you have to watch for some of that stuff too. That usually rears its ugly head in the teenage years. Inability to perform daily tasks. Don't get up and take a bath. Don't wash my hair.
Right.
Don't brush my teeth. Wear the same clothes for days. You know, we see this way too often, and we think, oh man, stress done got them, they'll be all right. They'll be all right. Let's go get a drink on Friday night.
Right.
You know, let's talk about it, you know, over at the bar. Let's talk about it. No. We can't attribute drinking or do drinking, because what is alcohol? It's a depressant. Right? So if you're already struggling with depression and we go out drinking Friday night on Saturday, ain't no telling what you're liable to do. So we have to think about that stuff. So mental health and wellness, positive mental health allows people to realize their full potential. So when we have children who are struggling with all this, can they see their future? I literally had a young man tell me, Miss Robin, my life is black. Wow. He was 14 and on his way to adult prison. He said, my life is black. I'm trying to talk to him about, you know, when you go in there, this is some of the things you can do. And he said, for what? My life is over. Do they have coping skills? That's what therapy does. It teaches coping skills. It's not no witch doctor gonna whack you over the head with a magic wand and tell you you're gonna be okay tomorrow. It's teaching you how to cope, understanding what you're dealing with, and then helping you deal with it. It's experts, people who practice this, go to school and learn how to help other people mentally. No different than a nurse. All we want to do is cut it open, drain it, clean it out, put a Band-Aid over it, and I'm moving on to the next person. Therapy is time consuming, and it takes involvement, not just on the part of the therapist, but on the part of the person coming to see the therapist. And often children come in for therapy and they have to build a relationship with that child. We see parents come in and they brought them in for 2 visits and they go, we ain't coming back. That child ain't even doing nothing. How many times have you went to see somebody and never seen them before and just started spilling out your guts? Right. It doesn't happen. Good therapists build relationships with the people they're seeing and serving. And then we can talk about how to heal. Then we can talk about brokenness and how to mend it. It takes time. You have to give it time. Mental illness and mental health is not a 10-day prescription of antibiotics. It's a whole nother ball of wax. And I'm not a proponent for medication, but I will tell you this. Some people need medication.
Right.
And it's nothing to be afraid of. What it takes is communication. I see way too often that people get put on medication and they go, I don't like that, I'm not taking it no more. Do you realize that there are more medications for depression and anxiety than almost antibiotics? So if one doesn't work for you, tell the doctor, man, this ain't working. Or it's not handling it. So they'll tweak it. It takes time. But it takes you talking. I'm trying to get people to do this in all aspects of healthcare. You got to talk to your provider. Tell them what's going on. Your therapist is an entryway into that, to find out if you even need medication. It might be something we can work with. You know, we might be able to get some coping skills in place. We might be able to get some support groups in place. We talk to the family and tell them what we can do, what they can do to help you through this. It's not something that's going to lock you up in a box. No more of that. So ways to maintain positive mental health include connecting to professionals, staying positive, getting physically active. Do you realize when you're physically active, it makes your brain feel better? It produces these chemicals in your body that makes your brain feel better, makes you feel better. Exercise is amazing. I'm going to get to that one day. Getting enough sleep and developing coping skills. I'm going to give this back to you. I got it. Okay, because you're going to need it. So, we talked about that. Any questions about anything I've said so far?
Not one.
Not one. Thank you.
One.
All right.
Not one.
So, what I want to do is I want you to take the piece of paper that you have and turn it over. On the back of the handout that I gave you, in the middle of the page, I want you to draw a small face.
You got a pen? What you got for me to draw? You want me to draw something? I need something to draw.
He's one of our peer navigators. I have to deal with this every day.
Hey, dog. That's my mama right here, my second mama.
Anybody else need a pen?
She adopted me. I'm gonna adopt the child. You want me like that?
Yes. So, what we're going to do is I want you to get involved with what this looks like. I need you to visually see, if you possibly can, what factors cause mental illness. What causes some of the things that are burdening us. So you got your paper? In the middle of that paper, I want you to draw a little head with 2 eyes and 2 ears. You know where the ears go on the side?
You said draw a face.
Draw a face. Did you do it already? Yeah. Oh, good. Okay.
You still need to draw the ears on?
Yeah, I need some ears.
Okay. So you said 2 eyes and 2 ears?
2 eyes and 2 ears.
2 eyes.
You can have a nose and a mouth. Amazing. That's perfect. I was
So you wrap that around.
Yes. You just do what I say. Hold on.
No, because we had this
This is what I'm doing
conversation
every
today.
day.
Then we.
Okay. So now, above the head, I want you to list all the risk factors. Do you know what a risk factor is? Can someone tell me some risk factors in our community that cause us to be anxious, depressed, stressed? What are some risk factors? Risk factors are things that cause negative.
Your environment where you live.
Your environment. Poor environment. What is it? Bills.
Lack of employment.
Lack of employment.
Lack of transportation.
Lack of transportation.
Poverty mindset.
No food.
No education.
Poor education. Racism.
Poverty mindset.
Poverty mindset. Yes,
Smoking
indeed.
cigarettes.
Drugs, alcohol, cigarettes. Divorce. Trauma. Marriage. I'll have a conversation with you later, all right?
That's a separate council.
Yeah. So these are risk factors. But some of the other things that are risk factors in our community that are affecting our community and our families and our children, lack of parks and resources.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We talked about food, us being a food desert.
Right.
Poor access to health care.
Right.
Poor education, poor transportation. Drugs, alcohol. Pollutants. These are the things I want y'all to have coming into your little person's head. You know, and in the person's ears. What kind of things are our children and our families hearing that are negative?
Right.
Just holler out. I had somebody say, I was in a grocery store at Kroger's, and I heard this mother cuss out her 2 children because they left her bag of cigarettes somewhere in the cart.
I was gonna say mental and physical.
I cannot even tell you the words that came out that woman's mouth. So what do we hear? Like when I said, somebody told me that I was, only thing I succeeded in was having 3 children. Even though it was true, is that something you want to tell somebody?
Right.
You're worthless.
Thank you.
You're good for nothing. How many times do we hear people go, that boy ain't gonna be nothing, that girl ain't gonna be nothing, leave her alone, I'm sick of fooling with her. How many times do our children hear that?
Right.
So put some stuff in those ears and just think about what that child or that person is feeling in their head.
Inside of school saying you're in a failing school, you're in a failing school.
Yes. And we have children, and we talk about our poor education system. We have one of the highest rate of 3rd grade suspensions in the state of Ohio. And majority of those are because of behavior. And they always say when a child is in school, by the 3rd grade, from 0 to 3, they're learning to read. From 3 up, you read to learn. So if they don't learn how to read down here, they're going to have all kind of problems up here. This is where our behavior problems come in at. If I can't read, if I'm hungry, if I'm feeling less than my peers, what am I going to do? I'm going to act out. Okay? So we have to think about what we put in to our children's ears, into people's ears. What comes out of our mouth can really damage someone else. People can be healthy and whole, but have trauma from the past that can be triggered and brought back to the surface based on things we say, we do, and they hear and they see. They're victims of things that they have no control over. How many times have you seen, I've heard children say, I've seen somebody get shot. I watched my granddad die of an overdose with a needle in his arm. We had 3 young ladies that come in our office one time. All of them had been sexually abused since the age of 5. One of the young girls rolled her babies in and said, here, you have them. I can't do it. What are we putting in their ears? And she actually went to the Human Service Department and lost her benefits because she didn't fill out her paperwork. How many people are stressed, anxious, depressed, and want to get up and go sit at the welfare department and fill out paperwork?
Right.
So that's why we have to put protective factors in place in our community to help bandage all that stuff.
That's right.
To help protect our families, our children, and our community. What is stuff that's coming in our community? Your community is not worth it.
Right.
Nobody's going to want to build a business over here.
That's right.
Everybody's leaving.
Right.
There's no money coming down the pike for West Dayton. People hear that and they believe it. And we literally did a forum in DeSoto Bass, and we were like, well, what are some of your problems? And they were like, we cool. We know there's no bus. We're used to catching the bus, 6 buses to get to the store. They've adapted.
Right.
It's like, this is my life.
Right.
I'm gonna sit around and wallow in it, or I'm gonna adjust to it. So when you adjust and adapt to those kind of things, what does that make you feel like?
Come on, good point.
So we can't discard anything that's going on in our community right now.
That's right.
Whether it's at the political level, at the educational level, whatever it is, or down here in the family level.
That's right.
We have to pay attention to all of it in our community. So now that you got these little people with all this stuff going on in their head and going on in their ears, you can see how it can wear and tear on somebody.
That's right.
It's like running the engine at full speed 24 hours a day. We don't get to go park our car in the garage,
Right.
sit in the spa, lay back, and, take the kids and drop them off at a nice little daycare center, at a camp all day. And,
Come on.
we don't get a chance to do that.
Right. Good point.
We're running from family member to issue to concern to problem to work and to this job, and see my son down in juvenile detention, go to the gravesite and see daddy. This is what we're doing on a regular basis.
Right.
And so we're running our engine and we're destroying our body, not only mentally but physically, at alarming rates. Not only is infant mortality on the rise in our community, and we're going to talk about that,
Come on.
but so is diabetes, heart disease, all that's on the rise. And why?
Right. Good question.
Because we're not taking good care of ourselves. We don't have the resources. We need to do something about that.
Yes, we do.
Okay? So suicide is on the rise in the African American community. You used to say, well, black people don't commit suicide.
Yes.
Oh, yes, they do. Yes, they do. And it's on the rise in our community. Suicide rates among African Americans have increased. Despite suicide rates being the lowest for African Americans when compared to whites, Indians, islanders, suicide is still the third leading cause of death in African American males from 10 to 24 years old.
10 to 24.
From 10 to 24. And these are old data. This is from 2014. I literally got the coroner's report for 2016 and 2017. And as I'm sitting there highlighting, because I want accurate numbers. I want to see what's going on in Montgomery County. I want to see what's happening in our African American communities. And I highlight a little black boy who was 9 years old. I highlight 4 black men in 1 month. I highlight a 16-year-old who hung himself in the basement. That's unacceptable. We need to talk about it.
That's right.
Thank you.
Parents need to know how to handle that, to deal with it. Suicide rate among African American children under the age of 18 increased by 71% from 2006 to 2016. 71%. The suicide rate among all children was 64%, but in black children it was 71%. Researchers are uncertain about the causes of this increase, but they speculate that children are affected by racism, bullying, poverty. They speculate. I'm not speculating. I'm pretty sure that that's what we're dealing with.
Thank you.
Some researchers suggest that racial differences in rates of suicide are age-related. According to a study, African Americans are about half as likely as whites to get treatment for mental health. That means that we're struggling twice as much and only half of us are going to seek help. There's a lady named Nikki Weber Allen, and she started a nonprofit. And one of the things she said is, black people, we're used to being oppressed and silent from the time we were brought over here. To civil rights and Jim Crow, today with police brutality. Allen went on to explain that in the black community, depression and anxiety are often seen as weaknesses rather than treatable medical disorders. So people often endure them in silence. The more we talk about it, the more people will talk about it. The more we say it's okay, the more we will come out and say, help me. We gotta stop thinking that crazy Uncle Susie or crazy Uncle Susie, crazy Uncle Billy, or Aunt Susie, or whatever the case may be, doesn't need our help. We gotta stop using the term crazy. Crazy. I let them call me that because sometimes I do. Get a little bizarre. But my mental stability is based on everything that's in my life that's protecting me and has always protected me and kept me from breaking. So, what are some protective factors that we can do to help that little person with all that stuff beating in their head?
Positive words of affirmation.
Amen. Positive words of affirmation. How many times do you hear the kids go, when I came home, my mama looked at my homework, my daddy gave me a high five, said, you are the man.
Just me speaking personally, because I'm a man with no kids. I got no kids.
Okay.
I think the main factor is letting your child see what a mother and a father look like when they work together and be productive together.
Have positive role
models. You
models.
gotta have positive reinforcement.
Positive role models. Positive role models, mentors, positive people in your life that can support you. Parents. Our parents right now are struggling themselves. I mean, I don't know how many times we go in the community and see the mother cussing and the kid down. I'm like, yeah, you tell him, mama. You tell him. We see it all the time. And I can't even blame mom because she's got so many burdens on her plate right now that she can barely function. So, but we have to stop beating people down because they don't appear to do as we think they should.
Right.
Amen.
You know, I've heard people say, we've got to give them something. Don't give them anything. Don't give me anything. Help me.
Right, right.
Put things in place that show me that you care. Put things in place and say, here, let me help you. I will tell you this, we have 4 peer navigators and 5 peer navigators, 4 males and 1 woman. And we found Ryan and Lucas, raise your hand. Ryan and them are doing Fatherhood Fridays in the barbershop.
All right.
To tell fathers how important it is to be in a child's life.
Excellent.
These guys were in a barbershop one day and they were talking to a barber who helped a woman who had 4 kids that was on the bus stop. She was literally sleeping on the bus stop. The barbers put money together and put her in a hotel. They just so happened to go in there and talk to the barbers, and they were telling them about it. And they gave another woman, one of the barber's sisters, a $25 gift card to go see her premature baby in Cincinnati. So I mean, this is our community working. Hear me out. Hear me out. So these guys go see about the lady with the 4 kids. They give her resources. They help her connect to Greater Dayton Premier Management. In 1 week, she has an apartment at Summit Square.
Amen.
She got an apartment today
Amen.
in Summit Square. Wow. You know, those are that's when you wrap your arms around the community. That's it. So these guys and young lady have Walmart on board dropping stuff off. They have who else is dropping stuff off? The food pantry, they're partnering with the food blanket.
Don't forget Snuggle Up, the beds.
Snuggle Up, they delivered 8 beds to parents whose kids were sleeping on the floor.
Amen.
Come on now.
So this is called wrapping your arms around the community and putting protective factors in place and helping people move out of despair and out of depression, out of anxiety, giving them hope. You know, suicide is because I have lost all hope in myself.
Yes.
You know, we have to instill that hope.
Is she also getting services from Sunlight Village as far as her mental health capacity to help her?
We're working on that.
Okay.
We're working on that. We're working on that. And part of every person that they run into, they let them know that we're here.
Okay.
We literally had a young lady come in to get clothing for somebody else who just had a baby. Come to find out she lost her twins the week before. We were in Walgreens getting juice. And one of the young ladies, you know, said, why are you buying all this? Because I have to buy all this sort of juice. They just, you know, whatever. So I bought all this juice and I'm standing there and she goes, what, you buying all this juice? I'm like, yeah. I said, I got a team of navigators. They're helping with infant mortality and I got to keep them happy. I got to keep them fed. And she says, well, you know, I lost my baby a year ago. It'll be a year. And I think I might celebrate her birthday. And I'm like, well, let us know what we can do to help you. And she said, I just thank you all for being there. And I'm like, wow. Every time we turn around, we're talking about somebody who lost their baby.
Yes.
What is the #1 cause of infant mortality? Does anybody know?
Racism.
Right. Stress.
Cortisol.
They can talk about progesterone therapy. They can talk about all this. But when you're stressed, it increases your cortisol level. Your cortisol level causes early contractions. Early contractions cause premature babies, and premature babies die.
On top of
Our hot spots.
On top of we're already born into stress.
Exactly.
It goes
Exactly.
years before you're pregnant now. It starts when they're little.
Exactly. When a mother is stressed, it literally changes the architecture of the child's brain in her womb.
Absolutely.
So they come out struggling with ADHD.
Yes.
They come out struggling with behavior disorders. So stress, anxiety, depression, all this is going on. We have to put those protective factors in place. We have to do something to help our children. Tutoring. How many of you actually go out and help our children with tutoring? How many of you actually would transport a lady who you know to get them to the doctor's appointment? I mean, we have to take care of ourselves, true enough. So that means we have to take the air mask, the dance down, put some air on, and make sure that we can survive. So I mean, how many of you actually have a day where you say, this day I'm not gonna do nothing. I'm gonna read my book, I'm gonna put my feet up and watch my favorite TV show. How many of you do that? Monthly? One?
At least we being honest.
And I want you to be. I want you to
that
be.
counts.
Because you can't help anybody if you can't help yourself.
Right.
If you can't manage what's going on, if your life is stressful, then we can't appropriately manage anybody else or help anybody else.
Absolutely.
So I don't know how much my time is over. Am I over? Okay, cool. So
About
I want
5
to
minutes.
thank you all for your time. I could stand up here and talk about this all day long. Sunlight Village is on the corner of 3rd and Plaza. We are going to be starting parenting groups and support groups, depression groups in March. So our website is down. Somebody hacked our website. So if you look up Sunlight Village, you're going to get a lighting company. But we'll be back online hopefully in the next week or so. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Beautiful, beautiful. We want to thank our sister. That was some beautiful information. What we want to do is, if you all would mind, I would love to give you all like 10 minutes to say a few words, and then we're going to open it up to the audience to ask any questions. I want to introduce my sister, who I've known for quite a long time. I mean, when I talk about Sister Lynn, I'm talking about a beautiful sister who really cares about black people. Sister Lynn has gone so far as, you know, black businesses and their business cards. Well, Sister went and got the business cards from the black business and put together like a board where we can, you know, every little bit counts.
Yes, sir.
And that energy that Sister Lynn put into that shows you her love for the community, because you don't put energy into something that you don't love.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to keep it safe with the introduction this time. Because I went to the website to try to get the bio, and I should have probably asked for it, but I said I'll go to the website and get it, and I got the lighting company.
Yeah, there you go.
So we want to, our sister is a therapist, a coach, a facilitator, and a healing practitioner. And with that, I want to bring before us Sister Lynn Brinson, and let's give her a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you for inviting me. Wow. It is so much we can talk about as far as mental health. My main focus is emotional health. Because I don't know about you all, but I can bet on it, that many of us were shut down when we had some type of emotional pain.
Right.
We were told not to cry. We were told to close our mouths, go to our room, and stifle that. So, and with that being said, I am specialized in substance abuse. I have worked with individual homeless women. I have worked with women in correctional facilities who have criminal behaviors and substance abuse issues. I right now volunteer at Warren County Correctional Institution, working with a emotional emancipation circle. And I just want to say that our emotional health is something that we need to address.
That's right.
We don't often talk about our feelings. A lot of times nowadays people are criticized for being in their feelings.
Right.
And let me just say that some of us really need to be in our feelings. Because I heard mention, you talked about some of the young people being numb, being desensitized to crime and violence and trauma. It's just an everyday thing for them. So acting out and watching it is not a big deal. So I personally have a mission to get us in our feelings. I want to be able to nurture my grandchildren.
That's right.
I want us to be able to nurture each other. We have to care.
That's right.
I don't know how we've gotten to the point where we just don't care.
That's right.
We have a blind eye to what's going on next door. Well, that's their business. That's been the business of the day for a long time. That's their business. Not even realizing that's our business.
Yes, it is.
Mental and emotional and physical health is our business.
That's right.
We are descendants from Africans who were enslaved.
Yes, ma'am.
So we are still carrying some of that emotional baggage. We're carrying some of that behavior.
That's right.
We're carrying some of that trauma. And let me just let you know, none of us are exempt. So we need to own it.
That's right.
We need to own that we're carrying some of that trauma. We need to own that we're carrying some of that pain. And what do we want to do about it? Because in addition to that, I am for getting us out of victimhood.
Come on.
Yes, ma'am.
Look what so-and-so did to me. It's really not about what so-and-so did to you. It's about what they triggered that's in you.
Yes, Lord. That's right.
So if somebody's calling you a name or treating you a certain kind of way, and you're offended or you're upset, they triggered what was there. Because I can call certain folks a name and they'll be like, I don't know what her problem is. But whatever.
Right.
I'll talk to you later. So again, we have to acknowledge our pain, acknowledge our trauma in order to work on it. And again, no one is exempt. I have been working with people in the community for over 20 years now. Again, homeless women, young mothers who were told to leave because they were pregnant, people in correctional facilities, veterans with PTSD and substance abuse. And let me just touch on that substance abuse for a minute. If you have a family member or if you have a past or a current with a relationship with a drug of choice, you're avoiding your feelings.
Come on.
We don't need to judge that person.
Right.
They are in need of something.
That's right.
Uncle Bill, if he's using crack cocaine, heroin, alcohol, pills,
Still love them.
he is in need of something.
Yes, he is.
He does not need your judgment.
Right.
He needs your care and concern with boundaries.
Good point.
We have to be aware of our boundaries. Well, how can I help Uncle Bill without hurting me?
Right.
So we got to be conscious of all of that. So I just want to let you know that yes, I'm a addiction therapist, I'm a coach, I'm a facilitator of meditation, I'm a strong belief in wellness and holistic practices.
Right.
I'm not an advocate for medication, but I do realize some of us need it.
Right.
And it needs to be taken properly.
Right.
I think that's it.
All right.
And I'm highly recommending that you practice self-care on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Not when you're exhausted.
Right.
And I want to get rid of that phrase, let's keep it moving, because it's very detrimental and damaging to our mental and emotional health. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you, sister. And you're so right. And you know, one of the things that we also have to just be very mindful, as my sister, both my sisters were talking about, is just the language that we use when we're communicating with each other. You know, the B word. Sometimes we are saying some of these words are a term of endearment. The N word. That's not a term of endearment.
That's right.
There have been scientific studies that have shown that certain words have a negative vibration, and when they put plants in front of these, when they put plants on the table and projected these negative words, even negative music at these plants, the plants die. While on the other side, where positive words and positive music was projected towards the plants lived. So we have to, as a people, we have to reevaluate the culture that we're living, recapture our culture, because the culture, even the language that, the English language, is a language that subtly suggests that black is negative, it's evil. I'll blackball you. Dark angel food cake is white and devil's food cake is black. I mean, the whole dynamics, I'll blackmail you. So, black eyes. The only thing maybe black that's positive is Black Friday. And then you see people going out fighting each other on Black Friday.
You in the black man.
So we need to definitely throw off these words, and instead of calling each other by negative terms, we need to begin to call each other by positive terms. And when we're out amongst each other, one of the best things that we can do is just acknowledge each other. I don't even know how many times we go, I'll be in a sea of white people at a street festival. I'll see my brother over there or my sister, we'll walk right past each other. I'll nod my head and they won't even acknowledge that I exist. And I'm thinking to myself, if something break out, I'm gonna be looking for you and you gonna be looking for me. No, seriously. That is serious. Because we live in under a system of white supremacy. And that is one of the main causes of the stress factor. Because we're frustrated. We want to work, but we can't get a job. Why? Because nepotism.
Yeah, that's right.
So I want to now bring up a beautiful sister, another beautiful sister who I've known for a very long time as well. And we know that she works at Sunlight Village, and I'm going to keep it at that. Let's bring up our sister, Sister Iris.
There we go. Come on up. Come on up to the stage.
Thank you. Yeah, I see that you have many titles down here, and none of which really applies at this point anymore, but that's okay. Well, it's really difficult to touch on things that's already been touched on, but I am going to say this. I probably worked with families, children, adults for, I added it up just a couple of weeks ago, about 26 years. I worked at Montgomery County Children's Services 22 of those years. I was a counselor at St. Clair Community College for about a year and a half. Even during that time, of course, I had began also working at Sunlight Village as well. In addition to that, even with all that, I have I'm a licensed professional counselor and I'm a licensed independent chemical dependency counselor. But all that don't matter because at the end of the day, I still experience on a personal level some trauma and stress in which I had to deal with my son. At the probably about starting at the age of 14 years old. Well, what happened, he actually had a trauma. Because we are professionals, we feel like we can solve our children's problems. You know, we can treat the problem ourselves or whatever. But I noticed that his personality began changing gradually. What's wrong with him? Something, you know what? You're being disrespectful. You're being this. You're being that. Not even recognizing that there was something going on with my son. Okay, got to the point where we became involved. You know, I got these resources. You know, day breakers in the community. Juvenile court, we come to the attention of juvenile court. I even had children's services knocking at my door because a lot of people saw my son, how I had saw my son prior to him having the trauma that he experienced. As you know, nice, playful, just always smiling and joking, and we see this change in the personality. So what happens? These service providers think, oh, it must be something you doing to him. It's something you guys are doing to him. You like, really? You know, the reality of it is I began recognizing that there's something else going on, but because I'm getting all this trauma and all these pushbacks from these service providers, that instead of looking like there's something going on with my son, they want to point the fingers and place this blame on the parents. Something, you must be doing something. Y'all must be doing something to him. Fast forward, my son ended up having a psychotic break. He had a break with reality, and he ended up hospitalized for a time. And it was really difficult because, again, you thinking that this is not supposed to happen to me because I went to school. Please. It doesn't matter because it affects all of us. And we need to recognize that not only that everybody is vulnerable to it, but we also need to recognize that there are certain systems sometimes that are in place. And I had to discover this the hard way, that help perpetuate some of the mental illness within our children, or some of the stresses in our children and the parents. Because I was on one side, but then to become that same person on that other side, and when the scrutiny is on you, and you like, wait a minute now, and although there were certain things that, I didn't recognize because there was a change in his behavior that was differently. So, I'm looking at it from a parent perspective, and it took a little while for me to recognize that there was something else going on. But the fact of the matter is, the services and the resources that I call myself reaching out to, you just real surprised how they're so quick to want to say it's a parenting thing. Something's wrong with you, something's going on in your family. Like I said, I'm working at children's services, they sending children's services to my house. Are you kidding? I'm like, okay, that's whatever, it is what it is. But the bottom line to the story, when it's all said and done, and when everybody's finished tearing you down, and your sons still need the help that they need, you got to be that person to be like, okay, I still got you to this day. Yes, ma'am. And I will say, my son is doing quite well at this time. And it was hard. And it was also hard to have to humble yourself to deal within those systems, and then you also become even more empathetic for those people, for the people who we work with what they have to experience and what they have to go through as well.
Yes, ma'am.
In terms of dealing with some of these systems that we think is supposed to be helpful to us, but help perpetuate the problem even more. Right. So, one of the things we talk about is the protective factors. One of the things we have to really grab a hold to is the fact that we got.
Thank you.
We can't rely on some of these systems that we think are designed to help us, because they're not.
That's right.
So we got to be able to reach out. Who's the resources? What resource you got, Ms. Lynn? She has resources in the community of people, specifically African American businesses, programs, people that would just be able to assist. Sunlight Village, connected to a lot of things in the community as well. We got to recognize where these systems are and be able to work within ourselves. Because trying to work in a system of white supremacy, because that's the bottom line, that's what we're dealing with. It's all about, I don't know if people are really recognizing what's going on in the community, but there is in my opinion, based on things that I have read and seen, is that they're trying to eliminate us.
That's right.
As black people. And it's not about being a conspiracy theorist, particularly with our black men.
Not today.
Particularly with our black men. And we got to be real with that.
Yes, we do.
So we got to have each other's back.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's the bottom line to the story.
That's right.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm going to end with that.
We love you.
We want to go ahead, and I'm going to, thank you, move this podium, and we're just going to bring the tables in, and we want you to start to formulate questions that you have for our panelists. But before we do that, I just want to acknowledge some people that are here. Can my sister Shanice, can you please stand up? Our sister is running for the Dayton City Commission.
Come on. That's big. Come on.
And if you're at the end of this, if you want to say a few words, please, by all means. And I want to acknowledge my brother, Brother Daniel Muhammad, who is the local representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Please give my brother a round of applause. And let me go ahead and move this. I'm going to go ahead and drive this over here. Let me drive it.
There you go, close the cabinet. Don't forget that.
I'm going to move this table on over here. Just we'll get you all in front of this TV screen with the logo. Yes, ma'am. All right. And so I'll go ahead and moderate. So at this time, we want to open up the floor to anyone who has questions. My sister back here in the back has a question. Go right ahead.
This question is for Lynn, but everybody can answer. I'm very empathetic to like just people's emotions. Like if you're sad, like I'm sad. And so I guess my question is like, what are some ways that I can protect, myself? Because I can't just be like, okay, you're sad, I'm just gonna do me. I'm very like, oh my gosh, like, you know what I mean? So how can I control that or manage that?
I would first of all acknowledge I'm that way as well. I'm an empath, which means I can walk into a space and feel the energy of that person. And I can choose to acknowledge that person. Are you okay? Is there something you need? And sometimes I know I don't have enough energy for it. There are times I have to, again, we have to keep boundaries. Do I have enough energy to support this person? I could contact someone else. I think you under some type of stress. I know someone who can help you. Right. See, I have to make a choice whether I can handle it or not. I'm glad you asked this because there's something that us sisters need to get rid of.
Right. Come on. Right.
That strong black woman lie. That lie that has led us to believe that we can take care of everyone and everything. Thank you, my sister. Superwoman syndrome, it is a lie and it's killing us. It is. We need to be able to pick and choose and assess ourselves. Do I have the energy for this? I don't, not today. I love caller ID. I love caller ID because I can choose to answer that phone now, right, or I can let it go to voicemail and call them back when I have the juice. Yeah. Certain days I don't have the juice, so I don't answer my phone. I don't turn on the TV. That's another thing. We have to be careful of what we're taking in. Television, music, other people's energy and nonsense.
Right.
And what we're reading. It's not only the children we got to monitor, we got to monitor ourselves.
Right.
It's certain music that you really shouldn't be listening to if you want to have a peaceful day. Right. So we have to be honest with what we have and what we can give. And stop giving what we don't have. And making ourselves sick. That's right. I hope I answered that.
My sister and then my sister back.
Well, I want to say this. I celebrate Sunlight Village and you sisters up there because your perspective is a perspective that we need. And that's, I empathize and because of your journey, you can understand when I'm coming into you with my stuff and being able to relate to that. And I appreciate having African American, I don't apologize for that, African American mental health within our community because some of the insults that we have experienced, they have not. So they can't even relate. Now, that being said, is that where the balance, trying to find that balance of not being, I'm a superwoman, and not carrying the guilt for not being there. How do you process that?
Like I said, being real with it. Self-assessment. I'm not a superwoman. I'm not your savior. I'm here to save myself. And being honest, picking and choosing, do I have it today? That person will be okay without you. See, some of us have bought into that so much that we have to do this for so-and-so, or they won't love us anymore, they won't like us, or they won't make it.
Right.
Since we are strong, we need to acknowledge their strength. You can do this. I know you can. And I'm going to give you some tools. See, I'm about giving folks tools. I'm going to give you some tools that you can use because I don't want you to think that I'm going to save you. See, some of us are willing to do that.
And like Lynn is saying, we can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
And so what do we do to take care of ourselves? I mean, what do we do for us to strengthen us? I mean, when we're stressed out, how do you handle stress? We always talk about coping skills. What do you do to make yourself relax? What do you do to feed yourself? You know, we always talk about spiritual stuff like, I'm giving, who's pouring into me? Right. So we have to find out what strengthens us, what makes us feel good about ourselves. And we have to do that for ourselves. We have to take that. But because we have to, I mean, there are some situations where you don't have a choice. You have to take care of grandkids. I know a lot of grandmas and grandpas who are raising another generation of children. You know, so how do we support them? You have to support them by giving them the resources they need and providing that supportive services and not being so negligent when it comes to helping people and stuff like that. So you hear people all the time go, well, I can't help her today, I can't do that. I respect what Lynn is saying because you can't give what you don't have. But so we also have to figure out how do we strengthen. You have to find your peace. You have to find what feeds you, what gives you the energy to move and wake up and go the next day. And if you don't have it, then ask for the help. Because there are people out there who can help you with that. You know, we had a young man who just swimming made a huge difference in his life. You know, a young lady who's learning to paint. You know, just these little things that give them peace and let them know that I am stronger, I am somebody. You know, we have to do that for ourselves as well.
All right. My sister.
Yeah, I had a young lady call me today, and she has to work to support the 2 kids that she has, so she can't stop something. So I tried to, what are you doing? She told me the things that she's doing. Can you stop this? Can you stop nursing school? And you just reminded me of her when you shared that. She can't stop that because she'll get thrown out of the program. So she's trying to better herself so that she can support her 2 teenage children, which one has been diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, and then the other one is dealing with calling her mom. Her daughter is calling her a B, and she's bullying her mom. So I sent her your name, but I really don't know how to help her.
I will say this. She's dealing with her own demons. Because children just don't disrespect you for no reason.
Right.
So whatever is going on in her life, she's going to have to. If you took, and I tell people this all the time, this is part of my assignment to some young people. Write down everything you're doing in that day. I want you to write down everything you're doing from the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed. I promise you there is something in there you can take out. I mean, when we look at our schedule, and I had to go to the store because I didn't get diapers, and I went back over here, and then I had to go cook dinner, and I had to go see about my grandmother, and I had to go deal with it. I promise you, there's time that they can carve out of there to be successful. Especially if you're going to school, you don't have the brain capacity to absorb and take the test to become a registered nurse or anything else if you don't have the energy and you're not absorbing what you're learning.
And that's what I told her. Can you stop school? And
No.
she said I can stop in April. But
The thing I want them to understand is, just like you have to look at what are your resources in the community. I mean, I don't know, does she have child care? You know, is there somebody who can help her watch the kids for a couple of hours? Is there a daycare center in the neighborhood? Can they go to the Boys and Girls Club? Can I go to the library at school for 2 hours or an hour after I'm done with my class and spend time quietly learning? How do we manage our time? And we run from sun up to sundown, and I promise you, When I looked at my schedule, I said, Robbie, Michelle, you need to fix this. And there was time I could carve out to go home and put my feet up. Don't you say nothing to me, Gina McDonald. Right. But I've done that. I promise. I've done it. But there is a way that people can make that time, even if it's once a week. You know, if you like to bowl, find out how you can get on a bowling league. You'll be surprised at the resources out there. I mean, just like Abigail's Journey. I mean, these are small nonprofits that provide services to young women and mothers. There are resources that we don't tap into. But that's what this partnership is all about. Just ask the young lady for a whole week to document her time. Look at her time schedule and see what you can move around. And I promise you, she'll find time. We'll help her. If you give us, we'll help her find resources for her children. You know, there's WIA, there's all kind of, but if you have a certain income, they'll pay for your child care.
But hold on, you said
They're teenagers.
Yes, teenagers.
They're teenagers.
That's the part you missed.
Well, one's middle school and one's a teenager.
Then they might need counseling.
They do need.
They might need counseling. They might need family counseling. So there's options. And don't let her beat herself up with what she's dealing with. I promise you, there's something there that she's dealing with, and she's having a hard time coping with it. And I'm saying that from experience. So please advise her to seek help. We'll help her. We'll wrap our arms around her and see what we can do to connect her to resources. Even if they're teenagers. These guys right here do a program on Thursdays for teenagers. From 5 to 7. We feed them in the whole 9 yards. You know, they're bringing in a fitness instructor next week, and we're talking about resources for youth. We actually have funding to get you teenagers an internship. You know, if they come and do a plan for success, $100 a week we can give them for an internship. These are resources that she needs. Something positive for her kids.
All right. And we'll get you next. I would like to enter into that interning program. Who said that? My Brother Bean, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I heard anybody touch on this, but this is for anybody who chooses to answer. What is your perspective for food and how that affects mental health?
Oh,
That's your thing.
Food, that strongly affects mental health. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I actually am doing some research on is specific foods that help support certain things such as depression, anxiety, and as a matter of fact, I give out food lists, as a matter of fact, just to help, mitigate some of those factors as opposed to, people talk about medication. But even more so specifically, what we're finding, particularly in our community, because, we talk about the food insecurity and the food deserts, oftentimes, and particularly when I talk about the west side of Dayton, I know people want to, and I know they include Salem Avenue, but I'm talking about the real west side of Dayton, which I'm talking about from 3rd Street on back, towards that was west side of Dayton when I was coming up, period. There's no grocery stores whatsoever. And so the closest store, for an example, I know on Germantown Street, they go across the street to this one store, I think Arabs or Indians own it or whatnot. So all they're doing is bringing in this processed food. Right. Processed food. Anybody, that is not good for our system.
That's right.
That and it's not good for brain functioning, and as a result, a contributing factor to what we see in terms of behavioral issues in the schools. Even when we look at the schools and look at the school lunches, right. Yeah. The school lunches is I appreciate them, but they're not healthy for our children.
That's good. That's right.
And we gotta be honest with that.
That's right.
Because those are processed foods or whatever, and then they turn around. I don't understand why Johnny is acting well.
He's still hungry.
Exactly. It's not fulfilling. They're not getting the proper nutrition. And I know people, they won't eat this type of stuff. And because there's other school systems where I see them in terms of having probably the same in terms of what you call the funding or whatnot.
Right.
But they have outstanding food, what you call that, menus and so we can know, what we have to do as a community, we have to demand better from our school systems, and we have to do that as a collective. We can't be just individual people, going out talking. We have to demand better, because if we do not handle that, and I know we're having this, the Gym City Market.
Right.
Reality of it is, that's great too, but we also need to be honest and recognize what that Gym City Market and who's that really targeted for. And unfortunately, in the real area, like I said, that needed most, is still not getting it. And again, that's on the real west side of Dayton.
Yes, ma'am.
And now, we do have a protective factor. We do have some food banks that give out some really good food, vegetables,
fresh produce,
so like village again, and those are things that we also, and I know they have had things like in DeSoto Bass, for example, where people have brought chefs in to teach people how to cook, properly. So yeah, diet is so important, and we have to recognize that in the contribution it does in terms of mental wellness or mental illness.
One of the things that I just wanted to veggie back onto what my sister was saying. Notice that I said veggie back, not piggyback, because I'm gonna turn my back. Some people might get upset. You eating that Piggly Wiggly?
Yeah.
That lowers your inhibitions, and there's so many things that pig. There's a saying that you are what you eat.
Yes.
But many people don't also recognize another thing, that the FDA, right, the Food and Drug Administration, right? But why is it called the Food and Drug Administration? Because food is a drug. Food is a drug.
Absolutely.
And so we have to recognize that many of these processed foods are now genetically modified foods.
Yes.
Now I want us to think about this, that this body comes from the earth, right? We have to eat the earth, the vegetation of the earth, in order to survive. We can't go to another planet and live on that planet because we are not made of the same material of that planet. So what is taking place when we're eating genetically modified foods, something that cannot be grown naturally in the soil? It's genetically causing some type of alterations in our chemistry, and it can't be that good. So one of the things that we do want to recognize is we want to try to eat as healthy as possible, and to also drink. We have this natural, hopefully, we don't know what's in it. We really have to even, look, we even have to watch out for the plastic.
Yeah.
Because in the plastic is bisphenol A, which is a hormone inhibitor. And it is banned in European countries, but allowed here. And we have to ask the question why.
Can I say one more thing?
Please.
And one of the things we talk about, that we have with diabetes and a lot of medical issues within our community. Part of that is when he talks about the genetically modified foods and the different additives and preservatives they put in our foods. Yes, it's contributing factor, of course, in addition to us eating the processed food, but those things as well that they put in our food chain is a contributing factor to what's going on with us health-wise, as well as emotionally and mentally. So definitely need to be. Thank you.
Is there any other questions that we have from the audience? If I can, I would love for my brother, can you address for us, because we have our sisters up here, but what are some of the methods, if you will, that the Nation of Islam uses to help men as far as the mental health issue is concerned? Because we all have to acknowledge, when black men come into the Nation of Islam, you see a man that was unshaved, unkept, as we were talking about. And then you see him standing upright with respect for our black women. So if you could take a few moments and say something about that. Thank you.
First, I have to open up in the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful. There is no God but Allah, that came in the person of Master Prophet Muhammad, and raised up amongst us the divine leader, teacher, and guide, who is the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, his exalted Christ, and I bear witness that the Honorable Farrakhan is there mercy and grace amongst us today. And I'd like to greet all y'all in words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. And I would like to, thank you, sir. I would like to address all the concerns wrapped up in one. Now, we keep talking about stress, but everybody hasn't said what stress is. Stress is pressure, right? So if we all was going deep sea diving in a contraption, right? We would have to have some type of line hooked up to that to keep that cabin pressurized, right? Because the pressure on the outside can't exceed the pressure on the inside. If it does, it crushes, right? So that experiment, when you're working with engineering principles, you can cross it over and know how to apply it to people, right? So what they did was that experiment. How do you take the pressure out of the black community? Now remember, when we was growing up, we had all these factory jobs, right? And you didn't have all this mental illness. People was taking care of their children, and basically the man could almost take care of the house, and the woman was, it was everything was on point, right? So what they did was, if you notice, they took out the jobs, right? They brought the drugs in, right? So all of this was depleting the pressure on the community. So you have to ask yourself, what type of knowledge does it take to equal the pressure that's on the outside that you need on the inside? So right now on your skin, you have 14.7 pounds of pressure per square inch that you do not feel, because God puts a pressure on the inside of your body that pushes back with the same pressure, so you do not feel it. Now, if you go up in a plane where the pressure is different, you feel the pressure. If you go down deep in some water, if you just going 12 feet, how many of y'all felt your ears start? Right, so that's the pressure difference. So the pressure, stress comes from not having an answer to a particular problem, right? So you have to, the Bible says, my people die because of a lack of knowledge, right? The knowledge that we lack is a self-knowledge. This is, if you look at the young kids, when did they all meet up and huddle up and say, we just gonna cut up and act a fool? How did everybody get on the same curve? How did this happen? What we all got in common is that we all went to the same public school system, right? And in that school system, your mind works with image association. So you didn't see an image that you could associate with yourself, seeing yourself being a conqueror, conquering something, right? So from first grade on up, you saw that you were a slave. You didn't contribute to nothing. So especially when you read the book and they tell you, like for instance, Eli Whitney, he wasn't the one that invented the cotton gin, it was a slave. Right? So all the inventions that they come up with, they had, and don't tell us that we did it, right? Because if you was to know this, and if you knew Jesus was black, if our parents knew that during slavery coming up, right, it would have been different. Because if you can pass on cancer, right? If you can pass on a positive trait, you can pass along psychological adaptations, right? So this is what's going on in the black community. We lack a self-knowledge, a self-love, which my sister was saying, the energy that you need, right? It was love. Love was the creative force that caused all of what you see in creation. See, God had to have a love for himself to create himself. So you have to have a love for yourself, and whenever you're being in a creative process, that's a love attribute, because you're showing passion for whatever you're into. So, like my sister said, we gotta have resources. The greatest resource on this planet are people. That's why they came and took us from Africa.
Right.
Right?
That's right.
They said, well, because they knew we could build this, right? We the children of those pyramid builders. So they gotta keep all this information, away from you. And this is what our children need. So I end it like this. We in America, and Pharaoh in the Bible said he's going to deal wisely with the children of Israel because they was multiplying, right? And so the enemy that Pharaoh was worried about was God. He didn't fear no other leader, right? So this is what when you flip that story over in America right now, and Pharaoh said he's going to kill the boy babies and spare the female. Do y'all not see this pattern in America? So this is what you're witnessing. So if that's taking place, then I just want to end it like this. I would respectfully suggest that if that's taking place, then there's a God on the scene, because everything in math has to be congruent. So there's a God on the scene, and he just wants to see black people stand up and make the move towards him.
Right.
We keep waiting for somebody to do it. They're not going to do it. We have to do it.
That's right.
And that's where we got to end.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's wonderful. So all of this is tying in. Now, one of the things that I want to do before anyone else leaves, and as we begin to wrap up, and Sister Lynn, I'm gonna put this on you just a little bit. We began the whole conference in prayer. And I know, Sister Lynn, you do some excellent things with a meditative session, if you will. So we want to, if we all can do a meditative thing before we leave. Sure. I don't know if it's a woosah. What it might be.
Get to that.
But one of the things that I wanted to ask as well is we talked about food, and one person mentioned, and we had our brother Leroy up here, how important is it for us to get into the arts, maybe like music or painting? How is that helpful to our mental state? And anyone can.
I'll say quickly that it's part of our creativity.
Yes,
If we don't utilize, our brain is like in different pieces. You know, there's a creative part of our brain, and if we don't use it, we lose it. It gets filled or overpowered by life. So art is crucial. As we see, we moving that stuff out of school and out of education.
Right.
Art is something that we can. It helps with culture. Helps with creativity. It helps produce critical thinking skills. Just the fact that they're taking cursive writing out of school takes that child's ability to be creative and to see different, things flow. So art is crucial, whether it be music, whether it be drawing or painting, dance. All those things are creative movements that we're losing and we don't take time for. And it stimulates a piece of our brain that enhances our learning, our ability to learn and to adapt. And it's relaxing. Right. It's releasing. There are such things as art therapy.
Yeah.
And art therapy is very healing for people who struggle with trauma.
Well, when you first mentioned getting a canvas and painting, it reminded me that people don't have fun. They we constantly on survival mode and being driven and keeping it moving. We forget all about having fun and not having that release of just being able to laugh and enjoy life. We've forgotten all about that because of us being in survival mode. So that needs to be a part of your routine. You was talking about fitting something in, fit in some fun. Going bowling or playing with the kids. If you just be around the child.
Yes, right.
They will force you to play.
With a hugging, touch.
Say hello on this phone. You're gonna do it. If a child hands you a play phone, you're gonna talk in it. So again, being reminded to have fun. And one of the things that I also do is I facilitate retreats. And one of the retreats my plan is to facilitate is doing some inner child work. Acknowledging your own inner child is a very important part of your own healing.
Right.
And what I've learned in substance abuse, many of us were never a child.
That's true.
10-year-olds taking care of 5-year-olds.
Right.
I wasn't able to play Little League or go to Girl Scouts or do none of that. I was taking care of my baby brother. I've heard that over and over again. But we're not too old to be in contact with our inner child. So remind yourself to play if you have children, if you have grandchildren, if you are around children at any time. Allow yourself that time to have some fun.
Now we just have a few minutes.
Can I add something to that? One of the things that also that's kind of been taken away from that's been taken away from our community is physical activities and going to rec centers and being able to enjoy ourselves. I remember, and this is no disparaging remarks, I recognize the boys clubs. I call it the boys club because that's what it was called when I was coming up. It wasn't the Boys and Girls Club. But it used to be called the club that beats the streets. Well, they have so much, quote unquote, and it used to be an unstructured, structured program. And we used to have so much fun.
Right.
It's become now this sterile place where you can't even, I used to can go in there and just go grab a basketball, just shoot,
Right.
Can't do that. They have the rec center at the Roosevelt Center now, or they have or at the Northwest Center. I go in there, pay my money to go in there. I want to go shoot some ball, or you can't because we don't allow that because people like to fight, and nobody's in here. What are you talking about? Right. They've taken, and I don't know. Again, people might say it's conspiracy theories. They've taken away even those opportunities for us to even just hone our basic skills, unless we pay for it. And a lot of us don't even have the financial resources to pay to be on AAU teams or this or that. Those are just some basic things that we used to just instinctively do. So one of the things I do want to encourage, if you can get the opportunity to go to some parks, take your children to parks, take your grandchildren to parks, do that. Get out the house, get some physical activity. As adults, we can still get some physical activity. Like I said, I'll still go shoot when I get the opportunity. Fresh air is important.
That's right.
Ecotherapy, getting out and just breathing.
That's right.
Breathing in that good ass prana.
That's right.
Those are things that are critical and it's important.
So as we close out, is there we want to give each and every one of you a few last words, and then we'll go ahead and do that meditative session and close on out.
Well, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
For the opportunity. In the basket is some information about the peer navigators. I didn't get to highlight on them too much, but there's information in here. There's some business cards in here, and get one of their bracelets, because anytime we lose one baby, it's a baby too much.
That's
To me. There is some information up here, and because we are operating in a number system, unfortunately, count. If you all wouldn't mind filling this out, saying that we talked about it and you found out about the navigators, I really appreciate it.
I just want to remind us all to take care of ourselves. And if you have a need, reach out. Because there's countless resources for whatever we need in our community. And I think it's important that we patronize and use the resources that we have within. We are here. Google it, and you'll find us.
Well, I'll just end for just basically what I just reiterate, just getting out, getting connected in the community. Finding, again, the resources, like you said, Googling the resources. One of the things that I wanted to touch on real quick when we talk about, and you will get a taste of that, Lynn does a meditation on Sundays. It's free. We do ask for donations, but it is free on Sundays from 12 to 2. Everybody is welcome.
Where?
Those are just basic 717 North Broadway.
Yes, ma'am.
Come out, it's powerful because it's meditation and more, because more than meditation that you get from it.
Every Sunday?
Pretty much every Sunday.
What's the times now?
12
Noon to 2.
Noon to 2?
Noon to 2.
707?
717
North Broadway.
Thank you.
Part of me. Yeah. Somebody paying attention.
Right.
All right, I want to thank everyone. I want to acknowledge Mama Gail from Cache G. Can we all give we are, of course, a nonprofit organization, so we're also looking for help for anyone who would want to help put these conferences together. The next one we're going to do them every third Tuesday of the month. To find out more, we want you to go to our website, and if you put your correct information down, we're going to send that out to you through the email. Now, if you didn't put it down, you won't get it. So make sure that if you didn't put the correct information down because you didn't want anybody spying on you, know that we're not going to give your information out. Go ahead and put the correct information down. So with that, we're going to go ahead and, Sister Lynn,
Okay.
I'm ready.
Uh-oh. Trust the technique.
People are already getting adjusted. That's good. First, I'd like you to close your eyes if you're comfortable. And I say that on purpose, if you're comfortable. A lot of people want to equate meditation with prayer. They are not the same.
That's right.
I want you to start by taking deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth, breathing through your belly like a baby. Meditation is present moment awareness. That is all that it is. Take deep breaths again from your belly. Tune into your own body, your own heartbeat, your own love. Be aware of your strength. Right now, tune into your body specifically. Acknowledge if you're comfortable, uncomfortable, feeling pain, or at ease. Again, you're breathing. You're taking time for yourself in the quiet. Be aware that it's okay to be quiet. While you're breathing and being aware of your body, be aware of the body closest to you. Send your healing and loving energy to that person next to you. Your right, your left, your front and back. Again, you're breathing the breath of life. You're saying yes to life by breathing. I want you to imagine this bright light at the bottom of your feet. You are now grounding yourself in the earth, Mother Earth. Imagine that light traveling through your legs to your lower torso. You're sending healing energy to your own body. Say yes to that healing. While you're continuing to breathe, that light is still traveling to your upper torso. You're sending healing energy to your own body, your own heart, your own love of self. And that light is continuing to travel up through your spine, to the top of your head. Say yes to that light, yes to that healing, yes to your own divine power. I want you to take 3 deep breaths. And when those 3 deep breaths are complete, allow your eyes to be fully and completely open.
Right. Let's give our panelists a round of applause and our keynote speaker a round of applause. Thank you. I want to thank Central State West for allowing us to host this. My cameraman, Brother James, I want to thank him. I want to thank my wife for signing everyone in. And if everyone will send out that information, please like our page. The more likes, of course, you know, the more power and energy that we got to make some things happen here in Dayton, as far as we just want to be a conduit for these type of individuals who have knowledge to share it with the masses of our people. So with that, please go home safe and secure, and God willing, we'll see you at the next time.
You gotta have it. You gotta have it. You gotta have knowledge for life. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. You gotta have knowledge for life. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. You gotta have knowledge for life. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. You gotta have knowledge for life. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. You gotta have knowledge for life. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. You gotta have knowledge for life. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. You gotta have knowledge for life. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. You gotta have knowledge.